wake up tired, even on days when you did everything right. You checked things off your list. You stayed busy. You pushed through. And yet, here you are again, exhausted in a way sleep doesn't seem to fix. What makes it frustrating is that you can't point to a clear reason. You weren't lazy. You didn't waste the whole day. From the outside, it looks like progress. From the inside, it feels like you're slowly running out of energy. You tell yourself it's normal, that everyone is tired, that this is just what being productive costs. But deep down, there's a quiet question you keep avoiding. If I'm doing so much, why do I feel so empty afterward? You don't feel refreshed when you rest. You don't feel satisfied when you finish tasks. And no matter how organized or disciplined you try to be, the tiredness keeps coming back. This isn't the kind of exhaustion that disappears with motivation. And it's not a problem you can solve by adding more habits, more routines, or more pressure on yourself. Because the issue isn't that you're doing too little. It's that something important is being drained without you noticing. And once you see what that is, the way you approach productivity will never feel the same again. Being busy does not mean you're energized. That's the first truth most people never question. You can be productive all day and still feel completely drained because activity only measures movement, not how much energy it costs you. When you focus only on doing more, you ignore what each task is taking from you internally. And over time, that imbalance adds up. This matters because your body and mind don't reward effort automatically. They respond to alignment. When your actions constantly demand focus, pressure, and decision-making without giving anything back, fatigue becomes inevitable. Not because you're weak, but because the system is unsustainable. Think about a day where you're constantly switching tasks. Emails, messages, studying, planning, worrying about what's next. You might not stop moving for hours, yet none of it feels satisfying. By the end of the day, you're exhausted, but strangely restless at the same time. That's what happens when productivity is built on output instead of energy. You stay active, but you never recharge. You finish tasks, but you don't feel restored. And the more you repeat that cycle, the more tired you become, even though you're technically getting things done. Until you understand this difference, you'll keep trying to fix exhaustion by working harder. And that will only make the problem feel heavier over time. A lot of your tiredness isn't coming from what you're doing. It's coming from what you're carrying in your head. Even when you're sitting still, your mind is rarely resting. It's replaying conversations, planning tomorrow, worrying about unfinished tasks, and reminding you of everything you haven't done yet. That constant background noise quietly drains you, even if your body hasn't moved much at all. This matters because mental load doesn't feel like effort in the moment. It feels normal. You don't notice it building up, but your nervous system does. When your brain never gets a break from thinking, deciding, and anticipating, it stays in a low-level state of stress all day. And stress, even mild stress, is exhausting. You might finish studying and immediately think about what's next. Or you finally sit down to relax, but your mind keeps running through your to-do list. You're technically resting, but mentally, you're still working. There's no clear off switch. Over time, that constant mental engagement makes everything feel heavier. Simple tasks require more effort, motivation drops faster, and by the end of the day, you feel tired in a way that doesn't match how much you actually did. It's not because you lack focus or discipline. It's because your brain has been on duty without relief. And when mental load goes unmanaged, no amount of productivity will ever feel energizing. Most of the time, you're not actually recovering. You're just stopping. Recovery is what allows energy to return. And that's very different from simply not working. When your nervous system never fully settles, your body stays on alert, even during your breaks. That's why rest doesn't feel refreshing anymore. This matters because recovery is not passive. It requires a shift in state. If your evenings are filled with stimulation, noise, scrolling, and constant input, your system never gets the signal that it's safe to power down. You might lie in bed for hours, but internally, you're still switched on. Think about how often your day ends. You finish your tasks, reach for your phone, and flood your brain with information. Messages, videos, lights, opinions, comparisons. Your body is still, but your senses are overloaded. By the time you sleep, your system is exhausted, not restored. So you wake up tired again. Not because you didn't sleep enough, but because your mind never truly recovered. There was no transition from effort to rest, no space where nothing was demanded from you. When recovery is missing, energy can't rebuild. Motivation becomes fragile. Focus feels forced. And each day starts with a little less capacity than the one before. You don't need more willpower to fix this. You need moments where your system is allowed to fully exhale. Without that, productivity will always feel heavy, no matter how well you plan your day. A big reason you're so tired is because you spend most of your day reacting instead of directing. From the moment you wake up, your attention is being pulled in 100 directions. Notifications, messages, requests, deadlines, expectations. You're constantly responding to what's in front of you, rarely deciding what truly deserves your energy, and that constant reactivity quietly drains you. This matters because every small interruption forces your brain to switch context. Each switch costs energy. Even when the tasks themselves aren't difficult, the mental shifting adds friction you don't see. By the end of the day, you feel worn down without knowing why. Think about how often you break focus. You start one task, check your phone, reply to something, remember something else you need to do, then try to return to where you left off. Nothing feels fully completed. Everything feels slightly rushed, and your mind never settles into a rhythm. When you live this way, your energy leaks all day long. You're not overwhelmed by one big thing. You're exhausted by constant small demands. And because you never feel in control of your attention, productivity starts to feel chaotic instead of empowering. This kind of tiredness isn't fixed by better time management. It's fixed by reclaiming direction. Until your days stop being reactive by default, your energy will always feel scattered, no matter how productive you try to be. Another reason you're always tired is because your sense of worth is tied to how much you do. Without realizing it, productivity has become more than a tool. It's become a measurement. When you're busy, you feel okay about yourself. When you slow down, guilt shows up. Rest doesn't feel earned unless you've exhausted yourself first. This matters because when your identity depends on doing, your mind never feels finished. Even when tasks are complete, there's an underlying pressure to keep going. You don't feel satisfaction, only temporary relief, and relief is not the same as renewal. You might notice this when you finally have free time. Instead of enjoying it, you feel uneasy. You think about what you should be working on. You compare yourself to others. You tell yourself you'll relax after one more thing. And that tension follows you, even into moments that are supposed to recharge you. Over time, this creates a constant internal push. You're always proving something, even if no one asked you to. Your body stays in effort mode because your mind doesn't allow permission to stop, and that quiet pressure is incredibly draining. When productivity becomes who you are instead of what you do, tiredness becomes emotional, not just physical. You're not just exhausted from work, you're exhausted from constantly needing to justify your existence through output. Until that link is loosened, rest will always feel incomplete, and energy will always feel conditional instead of natural. If you're listening to this, and part of you feels uneasy, that's normal. A lot of people hear ideas like this and immediately think, I can't afford to slow down, or if I stop pushing, everything will fall apart. There's a fear underneath it. A fear that without constant effort, you'll fall behind, that you'll lose momentum, that rest will turn into stagnation. That fear makes sense. You've probably learned, over time, that progress comes from pressure, that discipline means ignoring how you feel, and that being tired is just the price you pay for getting ahead. So when someone suggests changing that approach, it can feel risky, even irresponsible. But here's the truth. Feeling tired all the time isn't a sign that you're committed. It's a sign that something is out of balance. And noticing that imbalance doesn't mean you're weak. It means you're paying attention. This kind of change is uncomfortable because it asks you to listen instead of force, to notice signals instead of overriding them. And at first, that can feel like you're doing less, even when you're actually doing something much harder. You're breaking a pattern that once felt necessary for survival. You don't have to fix everything at once. You don't have to suddenly become calm, rested, or perfectly balanced. The goal isn't to remove effort from your life. It's to stop treating exhaustion as proof that you're doing things right. Discomfort doesn't always mean you're failing. Sometimes it means you're unlearning something that no longer serves you. And when you allow that process to happen without judgment, energy starts to return in quieter, more sustainable ways. This isn't about lowering your standards. It's about building a way of living that doesn't require you to be depleted just to feel worthy. The shift you're making isn't about becoming less productive. It's about becoming someone who knows how to protect their energy. You're becoming the kind of person who doesn't measure their value by how exhausted they are at the end of the day. Someone who understands that consistency comes from sustainability, not pressure. Someone who can work with focus, then rest without guilt, because both are part of the same system. This doesn't require a dramatic reset. It doesn't require you to change your entire life overnight. What matters is that you stop treating tiredness as normal and start treating energy as something worth paying attention to. So here's one small thing to do. Just one. Today, notice where your energy drops the most. Not what you're doing, but how you're doing it. No fixing yet, no optimizing. just awareness. That single moment of noticing is where change begins. And if this way of thinking feels grounding, stay with it. Keep exploring it. Keep choosing clarity over force. You don't need to push harder to move forward. You just need to move forward without leaving yourself behind. If you want to continue building that kind of life, you know where to be.